right?
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. Changes or additions to the agenda. We shall be adding a treasurer's report tonight.
Where's that going?
It is gonna go after budgets and appropriations and before their business. Okay, let's go around and introduce ourselves for the record. Name and rank, please, starting with
Scott Breyer, Select Board.
Dave Gallup, Select Board.
Phil Marquette, Select Board.
Matt Maxwell, Town Administrator.
Eric Emmett, resident.
Chris Roy, Boy Daily.
Henry Cole, interested in the landfill.
Peggy Stevens, same.
Joe Gay Casella.
Matt,
Jeremy Levy Casella.
Beth Barnes, interested in the landfill.
virtual land. Yeah,
Anyway,
perfect. Thanks for coming,
That
everybody.
sounded like David Tangway.
Is there any public comment? Okay, Joe, you're up.
Right. Want me to just,
You can do whatever you want.
I'm still turning the camera.
Yeah,
camera's gonna find me?
yeah. You can, do you want to sit in my spot or do you want to, you're good, right? That's whatever you want to do.
Whatever's the most comfortable for you guys, to be honest,
Oh, there, these guys are always happy.
doesn't matter to them.
No,
So we just wanted to come in and give you folks an update on some of the recent initiatives in the landfills and things that have been going on over the last year or so. Maybe answer questions you guys might have about certain things with the facility. We haven't been in a while, I think maybe due to COVID. Historically, we've come in three times a year, just to give you guys updates on our operations, construction, that sort of thing. So really, it's an opportunity to do that tonight. And we're probably, if time allows, we might spend a minute on our sustainability report, if that's of any interest. I was hoping to have hard copies of that to give to you, just so you can reference it, in the future. And when they do come in, I will make sure I drop off copies. We do have them digitally too. So I think just to start, we want to get you up to speed with our operations. Talk about that a little bit. We're still operating in phase 6, cell 1, which is the most recent cell we built last year and began operations in. We're on track to do round numbers around 500,000 tons again this year. We're permitted for 600,000 tons. So, we're well under that mark. I think the tons are trending to be around 500 like they were last year. This summer, we have installed our under drain system, which would be in the phase 6 area, cell 1B. So it's the next cell that we would develop. And before we can build a landfill containment system, we have to put the under drain system in, which is a big excavation effort. So we've been doing that this summer in anticipation of building a containment system for next year's cell, where we would align our system down with this sort of thing. So we're coming into colder periods of the year, of course, and to get that wrapped up and just kind of settle into our typical winter operations. Active gas expansion, we do that every year. We add wells, piping to continue to capture gas off the landfill. That's continued. This summer, we also replaced an existing underground DJ storage tank, which was due for replacement. So that was somewhat of a larger construction project that we had this year. And so other than that, as far as the landfill construction and development goes, pretty routine stuff, nothing out of the ordinary. We had our open house in September, which I would say was a big plus. It went well, had a good turnout. Jeremy, I don't know if you remember exactly the count.
Yeah, just over 300.
We had about 300 people there for the open house. Great opportunity for people in the public to, come in and learn a little bit about the landfill and, hear a lot. It's good to, see some of these things in person. So we had that. On the permitting side, we've recently had a couple of public hearings on some projects going on that we're trying to permit. The first of which is our underground treatment system. We submitted an application to the agency to passively treat our underground discharge number 3, which had elevated concentrations of PFAS in it. And I think the numbers, range from somewhere around 30 parts per trillion to 80 parts per trillion, depending upon the sampling of it, which is above the 20 parts per trillion drinking water standard. So the state has asked that we consider installing a treatment system on that underground discharge, which we've agreed to. We had an engineering firm design the system. We're in the process of permitting that system. And as soon as the permits are in, we will order materials and probably install next year. We're sort of out of the construction window at this point, with the temperatures and so forth. So if and when that permit comes in, we'll order materials and we'll do that project in 2023. We've also submitted an application to construct a building at the facility over by the leachate management system. And that building would enclose a leachate treatment system that we want to pilot to be able to remove PFAS from the leachate. So we produce, somewhere between 12 and 16 million gallons of wastewater a year. In that wastewater is the perfluoroalkyl substances, and some of the treatment plants have some troubles treating that material. So we are looking at technologies to take that out of our leachate and deliver them, hopefully PFAS-free leachate. So we have a solid waste application in for that with ANR to approve that building and then the piping to get to and from the building. And recently submitted an Act 50 application for that same project. So again, we're hoping, sometime over the winter, we have our approvals and we can go out to bid, and get a contractor lined up to build a building and then install that, pilot testing treatment system at some point in time. So that's something that's, that's been in the newspapers and so forth, as well as the underground treatment system. So those are a couple of the permitting efforts that we've got going on. I'll pause there and see if you guys have any questions on anything that's going on up there.
So two different treatments.
Yes, so and there's some confusion, a little bit of confusion. They are two different systems. So the underground discharge is the piping that's beneath the landfill. There's 5 of them. Phase 1 and 2 has their own discharge, which is being collected as leachate. Basically, they're under the online landfill. Phase 3, which is the one we're talking about, that has the say 20 to 80 parts per trillion of PFAS in it. And the state would like to see that knocked down to nothing or something close to nothing in a treated discharge. So that's what we have an application in for. That's the gravity system. It's kind of like a curtain drain around the foundation of your house, so to speak. It's lowering the groundwater table down so it's away from the landfill containment system and discharges groundwater by gravity. And so the treatment system will be on the end of that. That's one of the permitting efforts.
Where does that water go right now?
Goes into a drainage channel into the Black River complex and ultimately into the Black River.
So it's not being collected. You're unable to collect that runoff.
From phase 3, we are collecting it from phase 1 and 2. Phase 3, we're not. Phase 4, we're not, and phase 6, we're not. Those have been running gravity you know, since the landfill, was constructed in 1993, 94.
Those are or not tested. For PFAS.
Phase 1 and 2 is testing positive for PFAS. And those, we did have a detection in phase 4, but it's well under the drinking water standard, 20 parts per trillion. So we're not collecting phase 4 or 6. Phase 3, we're over the 20 and has proposed the treatment system.
How big are the tanks, the storage tanks that you currently have that store the leachate?
So we have 3 tanks.
Mhm.
We have a 20,000 gallon underground storage tank.
Mhm.
And then we have 2 twin 450,000 gallon tanks. One's 450, I think one's a little more than that, it's like 500,000. The newest one we built, it's just a little bit bigger than the other one, but for all intents and purposes, say 450,000 gallons.
So you can store almost 1 million gallons, 950,000 gallons max capacity.
Well, not exactly.
Not that you'd want to, but the tanks are that big.
Yes, tanks are that big. The state has a limit that they only want to see those tanks ever 2/3 full. So we have a regulation that requires us to keep them 2/3 full. So whatever that number is, you know, we're that or below. In a contingency event, if we have a big storm, rainstorm or something, we can go over that, but typically it's below 67%.
And how full are they normally? You carry about half full?
Well, one's been empty up until recently. Jeremy can help me with this, but I would say they're probably half full, you know, like over 1/2, a little less than half. Depending upon the availability of the wastewater plants to be able to take the wastewater, the tankers to move the wastewater, the amount of rain which, you know, is generated from the rainfall.
If it was to rain for 2 weeks straight, would you say that the tanks would be over full?
No, the tanks would never overfull, would never overfill. We have controls that would shut pumps off. And leachate would essentially be stored on the liner system inside the landfill. That's not a preferable method, but you know, if we couldn't find tankers, haul the wastewater off, that's an option. And there's regulations around that too, limiting how long that can be. Essentially, the landfill is designed to, you know, move that wastewater off the liner system as quickly as possible.
So right now you're hauling what, about 32,000 gallons a day to what, Plattsburgh?
Yeah, 30 probably ranges from 30 to 50, maybe some days. Kind of depends again on the tankers and holidays and what day of the week it is and any limitations that the plant has on us. We're essentially down to 1 wastewater treatment facility right now, which is, you know,
Scary.
it's a little scary. Yeah. I wouldn't say scary. I mean, if they shut us down, we'd have to, you know, look at other options. You know, we're looking at a facility in Maine to take the wastewater. Montpelier is probably close to, you know, being able to take some leachate back. Franklin County, New Hampshire, where they had to reseed their plant, so we were shut off for a while, as were other industrial users. So that plant might be coming back up as well. But yeah, today it's Plattsburgh. That's it.
What happened in Montpelier?
So Montpelier had a voluntary request of us to not bring leachate because they had a UV transmittance issue. They weren't sure what the cause was of that. So basically they have UV lamps that disinfects the wastewater once it's treated before it's released. And for the UV lamps to effectively treat wastewater, the lamps have to have a kind of clear lens, you know, and the lens over the lamp was getting a little bit cloudy. And so they were having some disinfection issues. So we're working with them to try to figure out whether or not it was us, and look at ways maybe even to manage our leachate to make it a little less turbid. So, long term, that might be beneficial to the plant, even if it wasn't us. So, we have weekly calls with the city of Montpelier, their engineers and their operations to try to work through it.
Hypothetically, if there was no place for the leachate to go. If you make, you're disposing 32 to 50,000 gallons a day. And you got shut off in 10 days, we have 500,000 gallons of leachate. What? I know you can store it in a lining, but it's not ideal. What's the breaking point? What's plan B?
Yeah, so we would get, on the phone and try to work something out with Franklin, with Montpelier. We have a permit to be able to go to Burlington North, we would contact them, we can take a load to Barry, we could contact them. We call the state, frankly, because, these landfills are designed to make sure that the leachate does not get into the environment. So that means we have to collect it all, which means we have to treat it all. It has to go to a wastewater plant. There is no other option. So, we would look for some collaboration with the state to, find a home for the leachate. And we are working with a plant in Maine as well to be able to take it up there.
But as you said earlier, the gravity like the groundwater, like in phase 3, that's tested higher for leachate right now, that's just running into the river.
No, I didn't say that.
No.
No, phase 3 underdrain is
Underdrain.
not leachate, and it's
Right.
not flowing in the river. It's an underdrain system, like around the foundation of your house, say. And it's flowing groundwater that discharges to a drainage channel into the Black River. That has elevated PFAS in it, above the drinking water standard, barely. This is the drinking water standard. So the state's asked us to treat it and remove that PFAS to nothing or something just above nothing. And so that's what the permit application is for, is to be able to treat that underground discharge. But that's not leachate. And that's something that's been a little confusing for
Okay.
people to understand.
But it tests probably almost as bad as leachate?
No.
No.
It's the underdrain, so we sample the underdrain monthly. We go out and sample it for temperature, conductivity, pH, and flow. And we've been doing that again, probably since 1995. And there's never been any problems with the underdrain discharge until recently when we sample for PFAS. And of course, PFAS is measured at parts per trillion, which is, a very low detection because of all the, concerns around, drinking water issues, like the state of Vermont and Bennington. You've probably heard about St. Cobain and the issues with PFAS down there. There's been a high level of scrutiny on PFAS in the environment. And so there's been a lot of effort to try to understand where that is in the environment. So so we've been asked to sample for PFAS and our leachate in the underdrains, the groundwater, everywhere at site. So.
Could you explain to me a little bit about the cap? So when you cap, I was at the meeting last Monday and they brought up the cap has 24 cracks in the cap where possibly leachate would come out. I don't understand. So you cap the landfill and then you grow grass on top of it. And if there's a crack, is there a cover that gets cracked in it? There's like reported 24 cracks that I heard at the meeting. And it didn't sound like that was getting addressed. And if that doesn't get addressed, would that rainwater or would the water leach out of that and run down into that perimeter drain that you're talking about? And is that possibly why the PFAS is higher in that outer perimeter, or it doesn't work like that?
So I believe that the cracks that were brought up at the meeting Monday were in fact cracks in the synthetic cap, but that is a concern with the gas getting out, not necessarily the water getting in. So, when there was emissions from those cracks, it was gas getting out of the landfill, not rainfall getting in. But, you know, any cap system that we have out there, if there's noted deficiencies, we're obligated to fix those. So we do a surface emission scan quarterly, and if there's surface emissions from the landfill, those repairs have to be made, and they have to be made on a clock. It's, you know, like 10 days to make the repair.
Go ahead.
I have a comment. Now, why is there dead fish on like South Bay and Coventry Station from your facility?
Well, I'm not sure that any dead fish are from our facility. I don't know if there's, this is the first time hearing about that.
I got pictures of the fish.
Yeah,
I did live right there near
by South Bay.
South Bay.
Yeah, I can tell you, we do a river inspection.
Mhm.
See, there's that fish, see the. Look at the water, I wouldn't even dare to eat the fish.
Does the river flow into South Bay or out of South Bay?
And
Into South Bay.
And of course, on Coventry Station Road, we found dead fish. And your runoff goes into South Bay and Coventry Station. Yeah,
Yeah, I can't speak to those photos, sir. I'm sorry. We do, we sample the Black River.
that was Tuesday, April 12th, but Friday, April 15th.
you know, we did call the game wardens and everything.
Yeah.
We did report it and stuff. And we just like to know, are you polluting our waters? You're 100% guaranteed?
I can guarantee that. We have sampled the river, and there's absolutely no impact.
You would drink it? If I brought a bottle of water in from South Bay, would you drink
I
it?
don't know if I would drink any.
Okay, that's my question and answer.
I don't think it would be wise for anybody to drink surface water.
Why? I guess you're not a true, off the grid person. You gotta know what you're drinking.
One other question I have, Joe, is just, so driving down, the airport road on the left side is a big pile of dirt right now. You know, where the farm used to be. What's going on here? We bringing like clay back and forth and what's,
Yeah.
you know, what's that big pile of dirt over there?
Yeah, so we are excavating on the landfill side of the road and moving material from the excavation over to what we call the St. Ange sort of stockpile. So it's excavation to develop the next phase of the landfill. And basically, we're out of the space to store soil on the landfill side of the road. So we're taking it across. We tried to push off having to do that for as long as possible. Obviously, you know, to reduce the impacts on the airport. So, but at this point, we're out of space and it needs to go on that side. All permitted,
Yeah.
to be able to go over there and so forth.
So what were you doing? Just store it there for a certain amount of time, or it's gonna be there forever?
It'll be there forever.
See, we're using it.
Good, we could. But you know, we're trying to balance what we have to move versus what we need for operations. And we certainly don't want to go across the road for operations to get soil and bring it back to cover the landfill. So we want to try to keep as much as we can on that side of the road.
Do you have a question for Joe?
Yeah, I don't live in Coventry, so I don't know, you know, if it's okay to say anything or not.
I don't think it is, no.
Okay.
You could have commented in the open comment section, but if there's questions for Joe, they're gonna come from these guys right here.
No, that's fine, just checking.
So that,
I'm all set.
thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Gio. When Mr. Gates said it's not the preferred method, I think that, I don't know, that might not be the exact word. For the leachate to go into the landfill or into the line. why is that not a good situation, or not ideal situation, I'm sorry?
Joe, did you hear what he said?
I did not, sorry.
My bad.
Sorry, Scott.
That's okay.
Or Chris. Sorry.
You said it wasn't ideal for the leachate to go, I guess, into the line landfill, I'm not sure that's the exact word that you used, but why is it the ideal situation?
Well, so the whole idea of the landfill is to collect the wastewater and remove it to treatment facilities essentially as quickly as possible. So the landfills are designed to rapidly move the wastewater off the liner system, and there's two liner systems, right? The upper liner is the primary liner, so the wastewater hits that upper liner and drains like a bathtub to a sump. You pump that out quickly, put it in our holding tanks, tankers come along, load the tankers, go to the wastewater plant. So the liner system is designed to move that wastewater off the liner rapidly. Essentially, the landfill remains dry. So that's the intent of it.
What happens if it doesn't remain dry?
Well, it will remain dry as long as there's storage capacity in the tanks to be able to pump from the sump to the tanks.
Okay, and you said you're putting a new container this summer, or was that last summer?
This summer,
And with the same size, or?
that's 20,000 gallons, yep, same size.
No, he's talking about the half million gallon.
The one we replaced
Yes,
was this fall, 20,000.
20,000. Thanks.
So is that water safe to drink out of?
Ma'am, I don't know what you're referring to.
What you're
Out of the leachate tank?
containing, and when it leaches out,
I would highly recommend you not drink that wastewater.
so it's going into our lakes,
No,
is what you're saying.
no, it's not.
No, it's
I'm
not.
saying
So, okay,
It's going to wastewater.
it's going to wastewater. So, okay, I want to know with all this runoff, when it rains and everything, where does it go? It goes in our lakes. It goes into South Bay. And it goes into.
All the water that, all the rain, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, all the rainwater that comes down onto the landfill goes down through and hits that collection liner system and gets pumped out as leachate, right?
Correct.
I don't think. it-
Except for the runoff that goes in the storm drain, that's gravity fed, that's.
So
like
there's a
the-
line
like
on
around your
top,
house.
any water that comes down off of the top that's on the cap. That doesn't make it into the landfill, comes down off into the drainage that you may not have been here at that point.
No,
But the under drain,
yeah,
that gets, I'm not gonna say where it goes. Cause I don't remember. But any water that makes it down into the landfill, makes it into the primary, I'm looking at the. Demonstration in the back, because that shows the layers in their liners.
yeah,
To my understanding, comes down and hits that. Those under drains get pumped out as leachate, so any water that has touched the trash. Is not getting drained into our lakes direct. Into it, it's going out as leachate and going to the wastewater.
it's
treatment.
100% guaranteed.
Yes, 100% guaranteed.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Next up, we have paving, prices and schedule, road commissioner.
So what do you want?
Scott,
What are you
we're happy
thinking?
to put this on because we thought we had to buy prices for paving, we didn't know if we wanted to hold off.
Oh, yeah, so I put it, I just had him, I forget that, but I had him put it on there, so like, I guess, what are we thinking this year? Norm came into my shop the other day and.
You can close it. Go ahead.
Norm came into the shop the other day and I asked him, what's the paving look like? He said it was high, so he thinks paving prices are gonna be about the same as it's been. He doesn't know, he wasn't gonna guarantee. Then I asked him, I said, so. We have locked in price for X amount of tons. He doesn't care where we put it.
Yeah.
He doesn't care if you use it for top coat, he doesn't care, whatever. I was just making sure, depending on, I'm thinking like if paving was $100 a ton this year, maybe we wouldn't do any, but we'd use up all what we had in reserves, just thinking out loud. personally, but maybe.
So when you're speaking to the reserves, you're speaking to what we've already paid.
Well,
We've already
contracted,
Yeah,
right,
yes, we're gonna use all of our contracts.
right, this year, right, and I just figured we might want to talk about where we wanted to put that, and I know last year we had put money aside to top coat some roads that we already paved.
We didn't do that. We bid those out and we threw those bids out, remember, because they were 85. We had lots of mention.
We do still have.
We put the money aside, but I don't.
We had him push back to hopefully save him some.
Correct, that's a base coat for the airport, and you have, and we had Hermanville, which doesn't look like Joe. Could use those tonnages out there, whether we wanted to beef up anything on the airport road. Or put it toward the top coat.
Yeah.
So we've got that, so we've got a great deal going there, $66 a ton, but you're saying Norm's thinking it's still gonna be around 85.
He didn't think it was gonna be any more than what it had been. He had seen that the price had just come down. It was here, and I guess it's about to where it was.
Yeah.
He didn't give me any locked in numbers or anything, but I figured it would be good to maybe over the next little bit, get the talks going.
Yeah, then we have.
To go for new stuff, that is what you're saying?
Well, whatever we decide.
So we have a large amount of tonnage anyway with that, and then if we want to do, so we should be up for 2-for-1 money this year for the state. It's kind of disappointed in that number. I'm thinking I heard 125,000. I'm not sure why it wouldn't be 175 at this point. Because we're pretty late into our last use of that program. Thought it was 2012 and 13 was down the Oliver. So we
So that we don't get 2-for-1 every year.
No, and I was surprised because if we're looking at 10 years, we're looking at 10 years now, I would think we'd be up to the max, which is 175. So we can throw that into the mix with what we got on the airport. And if we take this extra tonnage over here and throw it around.
Like Jason thing.
Something new
there. Is it Jason?
On 2-for-1.
So I guess what we're gonna have to do at some point, when we're doing our budgeting, is we just have to come up with a number that we want to put in roads and for infrastructure, and then you can come up with the best plan for the town. And we'll start getting it priced out.
And like I said, if we do the airport, that's still that's a huge amount of paving for a small town. So you got a good, all your bigger roads are paved. Do the Alderbrook. If we get a decent price and we have enough funding. Through ART. Might be better off waiting here if we can get 175.
Would Alderbrook Road be just the top or there?
Pretty much right now, I think we could get by with just a shim on top. So we can't wait too much longer. It's either gonna be this summer or the summer after.
Question,
What you got?
do we get any help from Pike Industry since their plant's there?
No,
No, for the Alderbrook Road.
no. They don't use that.
They're using that one.
They don't use it in,
They've shut that down. Everything pulls out of Waterford now.
Doesn't make sense to me, but.
Yeah.
Good on that one, guys?
Good for now, yeah. Yep.
Okay, next up is budgets and appropriations. Just reminder, get your budgets to me if you haven't got them yet. Roads Department.
Have you got anything else for appropriation?
Yeah, I'm up to $9,332 in appropriations, so we're getting close to 10 grand. I don't know how far you go usually.
I think it's usually we just get them all in and then
Yeah, so
we
we've got,
figure out.
there's only one new one so far.
Are the other ones the same?
The other ones are all the same and the money's all the same. Nobody's gone up, nobody's gone down. We've got one new one. We're up to 9,332 and
Who's the new one?
that one you approved last week, Wednesday on the waterfront.
Sure.
So are you gonna put out an RFP on the assessing? That contract ends this year.
With,
Do you want me to?
Uh,
Do you want me to?
I don't know. We do under our policies.
Let's
I would
review
think
the
it's-
policy and
yeah.
see what we need to do with that.
That expires at the end of June, I believe, so with the Kracheskis.
Yeah, so we'd have to
It'd have to
get
go up
some
there.
quotes if there's anyone else to quote.
That was a 3-year contract this last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that would be the end of the 3 years.
That'll be the end of the 3 years, and
Yeah.
I believe it's June 30th that that ends.
Yes, it is.
So we'll need to
I
budget
think-
for it this year, right?
So I wonder if we should.
Well, they've given me their budget for this year, up until, must be till June.
Till June, right? We know that number, but
Yeah.
probably we'd want another 3-year.
We should probably
contract,
have
right?
that number for, but for the
If
year's
they,
budget.
if they've given you a budget number just recently, it would have to be from June 30th on. They've already. got-
Right, it's whatever they put in the town, so I asked them for their town, whatever they put in the town report every year. I don't know what they put in there, they just must be put 1 year in there, not their whole 3 year.
So they were 23 a year.
Yeah, about that.
That's the same as it's been.
It's about 1,300 a month, something.
But we should know that.
What?
We should know that for budgeting. I mean. for the-
I think their bill's about 13 a month, but.
Not
So,
a bad idea, they have a contract done.
We
Now,
should, yeah, we
now,
should know the
because-
contract before we
before we put the
finalize it and
budget.
send it.
Yeah.
For 3 years.
or whatever it
However
comes
you
out to
wanna
be.
do it.
right,
We'll Just do yearly or.
okay,
I think that was probably a good one.
it-
that multi-year.
It'd be, yeah, because
Mr. Barlow, treasurer's report for October.
Okay, we have the treasurer's report for October. I guess I'm uncertain whether you have a copy in front of you or not.
They
Yes,
do,
we
well, they have
do.
a copy of the first page, David.
Okay, excellent. That's all I'm really going to talk about.
Okay.
October is traditionally a big month for revenue, and we certainly had a big revenue in October. Most of that is tax money as it flows in, with the due date being November 7th. Most of it has arrived by the end of October. We also had a large tipping fee check from Casella that contributed to that hefty revenue for the month of October. You'll see in your red folder tonight, there's a check to send the education funds to the school that takes out most of the collection that we got from taxes, which is good. That's what it's supposed to do. As we drift on down to the restricted or the reserve funds, we had a bit of reserve fund spending from buildings and maintenance. Most of that was for painting the meeting house, but there was some for the 150 mitigation. Asbestos mitigation in that as well. And then some of the other reserve fund spending, fairly low level, but we did have a fair amount in community and economic development. As you recall, that's where we're putting the sidewalk study spending. And it's about to the point where I need to get the sidewalk grant claimed, money flowing the other direction. So we'll get on that hopefully for the next month's report. And drifting down to the investment portfolio, just kind of look away at this point. You know, the stock market taking a beating, the bond market's taking a beating. The only shiny light and all that is interest rates are up. So we're doing pretty well on the interest piece of that. I would note we do have a meeting with our investment advisor scheduled for Friday, December 9th. Scott, I sent you an invitation for that, 1:30 p.m. on Friday, December 9th via Zoom, if you can make it.
Okay, well.
So the other item of note down in the notes at the bottom of the page, if you read through carefully, you'll see that all of the ARPA funds have now arrived. So we have them all. They are all in the general fund. In the bank account in the general fund, but they are accounted for separately in NEMRIC in their own fund. So we have those on hand awaiting ARPA dispositions.
Would it make sense to have a line on this report? With that?
Well, it kind of says the number, maybe.
Oh, it's right there. Oh,
So
okay.
once he uses
Yeah.
it, once you use that, once we start using some of the opera funds, like, for the fire district, it'll reflect on, where will we know
Oh, I just
the
have to do
remaining?
math.
Well, let me run with Phil's idea and we'll get us a line in here, probably somewhere between the general fund block and the reserve fund block, and just get its own little block. And that, I'll think of some way to show you what's there, then how much we've spent once we get that flowing. If that makes sense. Now that we have it all.
2 cents difference.
Everybody good there?
Yeah, that was a weird one, wasn't it?
David, you have a question from the audience? Chris Roy?
Sure.
Hi, yes, Mr. Chair, hi, David. How much funding did ARPA get? How much ARPA funding did the Coventry get? And have you decided where you're gonna disperse it to, or you were still working on that?
Still working on that.
Yeah, if you give me just a minute to add it up, I can give you the exact number.
220.
$315,068.02.
I'm sorry, you broke up. How much was that?
$315,068.02.
Okay, thanks.
As received by the town of Coventry. The rest of your question, I think, dealt with general ARPA numbers. I don't have access to those.
Well, explain what we've done in the committee.
So we do have an ARPA funding committee in the town, and comprised of myself, Matt Maxwell, the town administrator, Praneet Menon from the planning commission, and then I'm going to get her first name wrong.
Christina Fletcher.
Christina Fletcher, thank you. As a kind of citizen at large, and we've met a couple times, maybe 3 times, to talk about different ways to, mainly at this point, advertise to the community the availability of the funds, and looking for projects that might be funded with those ARPA funds. We've had a couple suggestions or presentations. One was from the fire district for metering, water meters, and the other was from the town related to a plow truck.
And Mr. Chair, just some housekeeping, obviously, for the water meeting. That would be the members in the customers on the water in the water district.
Correct.
In the fire district.
50 plus members. I think.
61.
61.
Yep.
Did you figure out how much that's gonna, if you were to do that project, how much would that cost?
We're doing the project.
Yeah, it was approved.
So, the
Sorry.
fire district doing the project, we approved to take money, to give them 35,000 out of the ARPA funds to do the project.
And how much is it gonna cost?
There was a 35,000, is that what?
Their thing was 31 and change. We gave them 35.
An important note, I think, from my perspective, is that the town, including the school and the municipal government, are the largest customers
Yep.
of the
Yeah.
fire district.
So the town essentially pays the fire district. For
For
water.
water.
Right.
Not water, just, not sewer, just water.
All set, David?
Thank you. If there's no questions, I hand it off.
Okay, I have a Community National Bank account agreement that I need some signatures on. Philip J. and Scott.
Oh, I can explain this one too. I guess I'll stay on.
This one.
This is for the tax sale. The single parcel that we had that went to tax sale and sold. This is the account that holds the proceeds from that, while the parcel owner has a year to redeem the property from the tax sale.
Okay.
And we're required to hold it in a separate bank account.
1 year.
For 1 year, so then what happens after that?
Well,
If the property is redeemed, well, it doesn't matter. Either
It's not-
way,
they
the
don't-
account gets emptied. Where the funds go depends on if the property is redeemed or not.
okay, other business? First up, we have the Newport ambulance. We'll be getting a new contract from them soon. I just wanted to let you guys know that it's going up. Their town contract with us is gonna be $40,337 for the year, with an additional $5,027 for dispatching. So we're looking at about 45,300 for Newport ambulance. That's about a $7,000 increase over the last contract.
That increases the dispatching.
Well,
38.
what had happened too is we had missed the increase for our budget and they agreed, remember?
That was on the
No,
fire.
that
That was on the fire.
Fire.
That's the next thing I'm gonna talk about.
I think the biggest part of that increase is that dispatching part. because
Yeah,
PD's changed their dispatching. scheme.
you're correct, Phil.
And if I remember right, talking with Jeff, the way he's figuring it out is taking it by the per call for each town, and
Yep.
I couldn't believe the numbers he's paying for dispatching.
That was $5,000.
Yeah.
Dispatch.
$5,000 a year for dispatching, yeah.
That's for someone to answer the phone 24 hours a day.
That's not even the phone, that's the radio side of it. That's not 911. That's Newport PD dispatch.
Dispatch.
There's a calculation that he's using the PD's calculation for what they're getting charged and just passing it on. By the per calls in our town.
So that was weird when Chris got hurt down here, so I called 911.
You call 911, it usually it'll go to Williston's PSAP. And then they forward it on to.
Yeah, after that argument, and then I'm talking to the.
Yep. PD with that argument.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a $1,000 phone call. You get 5 a year, $1,000 a pop.
Did he give a number, the first?
What's that?
The number of calls in the town? I know that'll be in their report, but
Be nice to know, right?
No, I don't think I
you might not have them
Yeah,
ready
no, I
yet.
don't think I got it.
He usually puts them in the town report on the call volume.
Okay, so the next one is the Orleans Fire Department. Theirs is also going up.
I knew that was gonna happen.
So it's gonna be about 22,600 a year now for them. That's an increase of about, it was about 18.6 or 7.
I had asked last year in an email thread, I don't remember, was it John?
John Morley, yes.
I believe Ned was on it, and I had asked the question, because the city gives us quote unquote invoices. They're not paid, they're not to be paid, but they're more tracking for calls
Mhm. I got that for you, Phil.
from
No
Orleans.
more leads.
Okay.
Yep, I asked him for it specifically because I noticed that we didn't have it from them and he's gonna email it to me. So I was gonna have it tonight, but I didn't get it printed out. But it shows the number of calls to Coventry, the number of calls to all the other, and then the number of man hours from Orleans, the number of man hours that was spent in Coventry, and the number of man hours spent.
Well, so that's like this, that's this.
Yeah, but it's a pie chart, it's overall, but it's sort of like that, but it says it for everybody. But John wanted me to let you guys know that they've purchased a new engine for about $500,000. They've got a Jaws of Life now, which they didn't have before, and an air pack, which I had no idea what that is. So they bought an air pack, that was 11 grand. So that's why
And airpack was.
it went up a little bit. We're gonna be getting that. That's usually comes about, John said that will come about the end of December, January, so I'll have it in front of you guys then. Now you can think about it until then. think they do a pretty good job for us, but.
They all do.
Next up is the snow guards on the church. Yeah,
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, how much of, Coventry does Orleans Fire actually cover?
Bill?
River Road, Webster, or airport from Webster. And a portion of the interstate. And up on the other side of the
Cleveland's.
interstate. Is that Cleveland Road?
Do we get charged for mutual aid? When only for, I know what you guys said about, we get charged for every time Orleans comes on a call. Is that as a first responder or is that anytime they come, period?
Sorry,
That is,
say that.
if Orleans comes, Orleans Fire,
So if
comes,
Orleans has a call in their area of Coventry, yep,
the town gets charged.
it's part of the
Oh, it's
contract.
part of the
but-
contract.
And it's just similar with Newport, is that's where I was talking about the invoices, there's an invoice that non-payable invoice to do for tracking per call. To here, now. My assumption is. If Orleans has something in their area and calls Newport for mutual aid, not, well, okay, this is not an assumption, I know it. It's gonna be counted on Newport's end as a call, it's gonna be counted as Orleans end as a call to fit in. Same vice versa, if it's over here for Newport. And that's where I just thought about that number with Orleans is. They get called.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was asking, so we're not paying for both departments, we're paying Newport. If it's Newport's territory.
If Orleans comes, then yeah, it's coming out of the contract of Orleans, Orleans' contract, because we have a contract with Newport and Orleans.
Right,
So we don't actually benefit from mutual aid if Newport and Orleans are here at the same time.
Right,
so if they both come, we're paying both.
yeah,
That's,
that's how I'm guessing, that's why I was asking about invoices, because you could. The Pine Hill, well, that was Derby, so that doesn't matter. But you could match, you could in theory, if that's happening, match two invoices together from both departments.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking, I'm sorry, it took, we were on
Yeah,
the
no, that's fine.
wrong way, but.
So are we paying just a set price or?
It's a 3-year rolling average of calls, and so I believe Orleans is doing it the same way, I think, they've got a call portion and a capital portion. And it's a 3-year rolling average of each.
They want us to switch to 5-year rolling average too, by the way.
I might not be.
So if a lot goes on, the bill can go
Yeah,
up
I was
or we're
looking at
just
the
paying? a
numbers.
Yeah,
set
so if
rate?
there's a higher year, it's gonna fall into that
Well,
rolling
it would
average.
save us. It would save us 10.
It might, it
10,000.
might, yeah.
We should.
So they. Being Newport, I'm very involved with the chief on the invoices and everything. I'm not gonna speak on exactly how Orleans does it, but I know he's doing those invoices, so he knows how much per call would be charged to the town. And that gets put into the numbers for the rolling average. And then they have, I don't know how they figure out the capital, but the capital's figured out on which is the trucks
So you say
as a
that whatever
percentage.
contract is like 40,000, it could be way more.
If we had a high year, yeah. Now, as a note. It won't happen till next budget year. Newport just bonded and we are buying a new truck also. That was gonna be delivered after July 1, so that'll be the following year that would show up on capital.
Okay, I talked to the Dana over at Vermont Construction Company. Our snow guards will be up within the next 2 weeks. He apologized. They had a death in one of their workers down there in the family or something, so they're backed up a little bit. But he said he's got the guards down there. He just needs a day to get up here and do it. Said within 2 weeks. Okay, that concludes other business. Next up is the approval of minutes from November 7th, 2022.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from Monday, November 7th.
You look through them?
Read them, I think I'm pretty accurate.
Ask them if I can fix that part. I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Okay, warrants are next.
I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary. I looked through them all. I think you guys kind of skimmed through them.
Yeah, just a school check.
Just a school check is awesome.
Whoa.
I'll make a motion to accept the warrants.
So,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
2.3 million. That's why there's some on there.
Okay, now we have an executive session for a legal discussion. Need somebody to read this motion?
What is it?
Legal, legal discussion?
Yeah,
Do I need to?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta, oh, yeah, you gotta hit the road, Phil.
Road check.
Yep. I move to find that premature general public knowledge regarding the town's legal strategy with certain contract matters would clearly place the town at a substantial disadvantage because the select board risks disclosing its negotiation strategy if it discusses the strategy in public. I move that we enter into executive session to discuss confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the body under the provisions of Title I, Section 313A(1)(f) of the Vermont statute.
you include David.
To include who?
To include Matt, David, Scott, and David Barlow.
I'm recusing. Sorry.
You gotta vote.
Second.
Second that.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Okay. No action taken. Just need to adjourn us, boys.
Make a motion to adjourn.
So move. All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
Thanks, David.
Thank you. See you later, guys.
See ya.
Man, the minutes, I didn't remember apologizing.
What's that?
In the minutes, I don't remember apologizing.
What did I write?
Oh, you did say that you were sorry for not.
Yeah, you did. You said you were.
addressing her. She came to you.
Yeah, you said you were gonna go out and you didn't.
Okay, but I thought the minutes it showed about the condition of the road.
No, I didn't. I'm pretty sure I wrote, you said you were gonna go out and see her.
It was for not.
You did apologize.
Yeah, for not.
That's just the way I'm going.